Never thought I would be nervous speaking in front of a bunch of people, because I've done it over and over many times with my Rotary Club and about 15 or 16 eulogies. People would always ask me, well, you can do mom, my brother, you can do moms, you can do dads. My younger brother unfortunately passed away, and we did his, which took about 2 hours because he was a very special man. But when you do a eulogy, you talk about someone else. I've never had to talk about myself. I think that's kind of rude and tacky to kind of pat yourself on the back. So I thought, well, I'll write my obituary as if it was, because I'm almost 70, and I'm thinking, who knows how much time I got? But then I thought, well, then I'm still going to be saying the same stuff. And so when I saw John Thrasher today, and Ed Burr, who told me not to mention his name, right? Yeah, right here. He said, hey, what are you going to wear tonight? I said, well, I'm going to wear the only jacket that I have. It's a blue blazer that's about 25 years old and a tad tight. But before I go on, there's one lady I'd like you to raise her hand, Laurel Richardson. Where's Laurel? Scott told me that I better thank you and thank you and thank you because you championed me. I didn't even really know, like some others, what the Circle of Gold was. And then when I heard about it from you, I thought, gosh, who could I nominate? Who could do that? And then I guess you called me. I was finishing decorating in November of last year, and you told me that about this Circle of Gold, and you're nominated, and it was a phone number I didn't know. And when I hung up, my Carson walked in, and I said, I think we better make a Crown Royal, because either somebody pulled the biggest joke in the world or I'm getting a big award. She said, who was it? I said, I have no clue what his name was. But we got to be over there at the spring game. So I thought what I would do is, everybody else's were typed and mine have all changed. So I'm going to go through a couple things about me, and I want you to listen fast, as Bill Peterson would say. Okay, boys, get together and listen fast. I was born and raised in Daytona Beach, Florida, a small town. We grew up I had the greatest mother and father that you could ever want. My father's name was Peter, and my mother's name was Fanny Reuben Coleman. Yes, your eyes go up. Her real name was Fanny. She was from a family of 12, and she kept telling us as she grew older, she said, yeah, you know, I went to FSCW. I said, I know, we know. And Pop, now that's what they called her dad, Pop Coleman, you know, he was a senator. He was a senator, and he helped make FSU co-ed. Okay, Mom, that's great, you know. Mom passes away, we find all this stuff. It was true. We knew she went to FSCW. But her father, Pop Coleman, was a senator over here in the 40s. And Mom was dating my father, and she said, she came home after 1 quarter, she was an 80 pie, and she said, you got to change that school. That's just boring over there. You got to have men over there. So they were the kind of parents that led by, we just watched them. My dad was a florist. We lived in the gray shingle house, 2-story home that used to be the house across the street from the big house on the river, and we weren't. We didn't have air conditioning until we were juniors, and we'd have a TV, didn't need it. We didn't need that stuff. We just played. Everybody came to our house and played. And some of the people would go in and ask Mom about stuff. Dad never went to college, but he's the smartest man I ever knew. I just watched what he did as a florist. And what was interesting is if somebody called and complained about the flowers, he'd say, well, I'm sure it was our fault, and we'll take care of that, and we'll send you some other ones, or you can come in and get them, and we won't charge you a thing. And I knew he meant that because when he hung up the phone, he said, we got to take care of that customer. And all I knew when going through high school, I had 4 things basically. I was the president of Key Club, and I also had to get the band for the prom. Well, I went to school with a couple of guys and said they were pretty good. Greg and Dwayne Allman. So I listened to them, and I said, you wanted $150? I said, you're not worth 120, and we're not going over 125 because you're not that good. I know music. I also won my high school record for the high hurdles and low hurdles. And you look at me, I don't look like a hurdler. Well, I didn't back then either. But I had a great coach, and I think about all the great coaches we have here. They change people's lives. I don't do that, but that's what they do. That's what I tell Mike Martin and Mickey and those guys and Bobby. But they change people's lives. And he changed mine. He said, you jump those hurdles, you get your steps, and you'll win. And I did. And the Amazing thing about that is my younger brother broke my record. He did everything I did. He's 5 years younger. Sounded just like me. Actually couldn't tell the difference of me on the phone with me. Katie, none of them. Sounded just like him. We did everything. He was 5 years behind me, and I asked him one time, I said, how come you did that? He said, well, I figured I had a 5-year buffer. It worked for you. Once you fail, I'll be okay. And the last thing is think back about when you were in high school. And think about the one superlative that you wanted to win. As a junior and as a senior. Most popular, right? Best looking. Best dressed. Best athlete. I got cutest. Cutest 2 years in a row, and I'm a guy. I had hair back then. After high school, I went to junior college so that I could buy a car. Then I came to Florida State, and I walked into the SAE house. And I met a man, and he was going to be here today, but he got sick last night over in Jacksonville. His name was Ray Barbie, and he's another guy that changed my life. And he said, hey, how are you? And I said, I'm Max. And 2 days later, he got me into SAE by cheating the system and miscounting all the black balls. He changed my life, and we're still great friends today. And so that's what what's Florida State's done to me. But something about Billy, Billy talked about his elementary school. Well, I went to Lenox Elementary School. And see, where Billy's elementary school now is a jail or prison or something, right? Mine is a parking lot for a church. They pray for me every day. Let's see. This is pretty bad stuff here. A couple of things that you might not know about me. I'm a very regular, simple guy. I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock or 5:30, go out and get my newspaper and the neighbor's newspaper. I read the newspaper, have coffee. Carson's right there. We got the cat and everything's good. I read Reader's Digest all the time. I have for 55 years because it's good. It says good stuff. And if I'm home around 11:30 or 12 for lunch, I watch the Andy Griffith Show. It teaches you something every time. They don't have any of that stuff on TV anymore. I also love Christmas. If you've ever been over to our house at Christmas, I just love it. It takes a month to decorate, but we do it. We have about 5 or 6 parties a year. My Rotary Club, we have our kids' party for kids under 12. And somebody said, why do you do that? I said, well, if we can convince 2 kids a year, over 30 years, we've convinced them that Santa Claus is real. And now they even write letters to Santa Claus, and we have a mailbox in the front of our house where they can put them, and they put their address, and I write a letter back from Santa Claus on some letterhead that Ashley made for me. So we just trying to, we have a lot of teams. And then the other time, I think our most favorite one is the Special Olympics swim team. I don't know if anybody in here has a special needs child in their family, or you know one. But if you do, I see some people nodding. If you do, and people say, I know what it must be like, you go, well, you really don't. But we're the most blessed people in the world. Betsy will call at 6 o'clock in the morning and go, hey, Dad, what are you doing? I said, well, getting ready to get up. What are you doing? Well, she works at Publix, and she's been written up for one thing, hugging. She said, Dad, we're huggers. And I said, we are huggers, but honey, you got to go. So it's an interesting, I was just blessed when that happened. And my other 2 girls, Katie over here, she works in the toughest business there is, and it's staffing. And she's been coming to the game since she was 6. And she has a dog named Fisher, but I think it may be changed to Willie. Yeah. And then Ashley, my stepdaughter, you already heard about. She grew up, her father was a Gator. She grew up in a Seminole house, and she's a Seminole. We came over years ago, and I remember Andy telling me, he said, if you see Bobby, just leave him alone. I went, okay. Well, we were the only people on the west side sitting up there kind of near him, and he waved, and I waved, and they said, Dad, he's waving us up. I said, well, can't go up there. He's just going like this. They're probably 6 and 8 years old. And I have another Gator in the family, and that's Carson right there. That's my lady Carson. She grew up always as a Gator, and slowly but surely, and now she's the one that takes care of me and makes sure that I don't do anything wrong, and only occasionally has to correct me. A couple things I'm going to tell you about Florida State I bet you didn't know. I know Andy knows one of them, because Andy called me years ago before I was working for him. He said, hey, Max, would you do me a favor? I said, sure. He said, would you go downtown, you got a horse down there that's all reared up. I said, yes, sir. It's down at the landing. He said, yeah, well, I need you to take about 10 photos of the underneath of that horse. I said, the underneath of the horse, for what? He said, well, we're going to build this big horse, and we're going to have him out there, and, he's going to be reared up, and we just want to make sure that everything is in order. I said, okay, lucky me. Well, I've got a lot of looks taking those pictures. And here's another one. Back in the day, way before, and Bill Durham is not here, but Bill Durham also worked for Xerox. And when Renegade would come running out, and Osceola's got that spear up there, and they lit that spear, I had worked for Xerox, and what was on the end of that spear that they lit was a Xerox cleaning web. Mike Millardy would remember that, right, Mike? A machine we didn't make anymore. That's what they used. Well, after about 3 years, he said, hey, Max, I need some more webs. I said, well, we don't have any more. So I called some little old nice lady in Atlanta, told her what I needed, and I said, you want me to make up a story or tell you the truth? She said, just tell me the truth. And she took care of it. I don't know what they use now. But Bill Durham also brought Renegade and Osceola to Jacksonville, and the old folks from Jacksonville remember that because he had a horse, and he was raising money for a trailer. So we raised enough money for that trailer for Renegade, and I think that's one of the few times he's ever gone out of Tallahassee. Andy Miller, I've got to thank you for hiring me. I know I'm your favorite man here, one of your top 250. But working for the Boosters came at a perfect time. He called me in 2008. He said, hey, what do I need to pay you to work part-time for the Boosters and do what you do over there and just do stuff? And I said, I don't know. Well, about 5 minutes later, if you ever talked to Andy, that's a lot. 5 minutes later, we came to an agreement over the phone, and I was working for the Seminole Boosters. And I will tell you, when people say, what's that like? I said, you got to be kidding. It's like selling chocolate to me, selling Christmas to me. I love it. I think about Florida State every day. My license plate is FSU Max. I've got every booster tag since 1977, except a couple that flip down underneath that I can't get to. I love it. And the people that I have met, where else would I have met a Bobby Bowden, a Mickey Andrews, a Bernie Schleiger, for those that knew him? To me, you're the best. But he was number 2. And let me tell you what this guy was like. Sky Valley is our favorite place to go. And he has a place up there, which I've never seen, never been invited to or anything, and I probably won't, but that's okay. But we're sitting there 2 years ago on the 4th of July for a little fundraiser, and we got all our group, and one of them happens to be a Gator. He's my dentist and one of the guys I play 25-cent poker with. We're sitting down there, and I got a tap on my shoulder, and I said, yep. I said, oh, hey, John. And he said, hey, Max. And he introduced himself. I introduced him around, and he left. And my Gator friend said, is that really the president of Florida State? And I said, yeah. And everybody else did. He said, you know the president of Florida State University? And I said, he knows me. So I've also gotten to meet Coach Martin, and we're not doing great in baseball now, but I think about 6 more wins, we will have the winningest baseball coach in the history of college baseball. We already have Bobby, the best of anything. He's got records that no one can ever come close to because nobody stays there. They got to chase the money. He lives in the same house, call it, either here and will answer it, the same phone number. We're blessed. I also got to meet a man, Monk Montessort, who was one of the most incredible people I ever met. And when I called him we were talking one time, I said, I got a question to ask you. I said, how come whenever I call and ask you for something, you do it? He said, well, you remember the days when I was real famous, when I was a real good football player? And I said, yeah. And I'd stop by your tailgate, yeah. We were friends and buddies, yeah. And then I left school, left Florida State, and then, yeah. And then I got in a little trouble. I said, yeah. And then I got out of that trouble. I came back to Florida State. Well, you stayed my friend. And a lot of people didn't. I said, I don't know any better, Monk. I just know a good person. He was the most incredible human being, or one of these, and it's not the same without him over here. And I just wanted to, he was one of the people that changed my life. This is it. Because Laurel's getting ready to go. Well, she said, now, I got 10 minutes of Q&A. So I'm just saying, what I have thought about is, and I want you all to think about what it would be like if you had not gone to Florida State. I know what it would have been like for me. I would never have played Augusta National twice in 2 weeks because the friend that asked me was an old fraternity brother who also built my house. And he just happened to call me one day and said, hey, what are you doing February 18th, 19th, and 20th? I said, I don't know, probably something with you. And he said, yeah, you want to play Augusta? I said, hold on a minute. I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah. Well, 2 days before we go, it's canceled because of weather. Rescheduled for March the 22nd. Canceled. The member's best friend died. Rescheduled for my nephew's wedding. And I'm in, and I'm trying to work for 10 minutes. I'm trying to think of a way to, said it isn't going to work. I called him and said, I can't make it. He called the member and he said, I want it to be an experience. And so it was rescheduled four times, but I got to play it. And I am living proof. Who's got the highest handicap in here? Yeah, right. Johnny Rockwell, another SA buddy of mine. I'm living proof that even if you have a high handicap and you try, you can get 4 hole ones. And how that happened is beyond me, but you just keep on trying. I'm not a good golfer, but boy, we have fun. And we have our little circle of friendship that if it's inside that circle, that putt's good. There was one other thing that I want. Ed's going, that's not real golf. No, it's not. But there's one other thing that I want you to think about doing tonight when you get home, or maybe after the weekend. Call somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. And just say, hey. Just wanted to say, hey. Because I call 250 people a year for their birthday. And somebody wanted to know how. I said, well, if I have your number and it's on and it's in pink, then I call you. I've never had one complaint. I've had one call me back one year that I didn't call him. He said, hey, this is Ed Smith. I said, how you doing? He said, I'm doing great. How you feel? I said, feel great. He said, you know what today is? Nope. Went to the calendar. It was his birthday. Hung up on him, called him right back, sang him happy birthday. But if you do that to 5 people, believe me, when you hang up the phone, you will feel good, and they will feel great, and they'll say, somebody remembered my birthday. So think about that. I'm so lucky to go to Florida State, blessed to meet all the people. My life has changed. I can't imagine going to the other school. Who would I know? Steve Spurrier? Urban Meyer? McElwain he's going to get killed. And, what would it have been like? I thank Florida State for letting me come here, and for the Circle of Gold, which I didn't know anything about until our sweet Laurel did that. So thank you very, very much. I'm humbled.